hey there, it's that coding guy here, breaking it down and making it accessible. Let's talk about implementing interfaces. In my previous video, we went over the concepts. If you missed it, go check it out. So we had talked about a file helper and it doing or defining different file operations that we could do with a variety of files. So what I'll do here is create a new interface. So it's new Java class, and then we'll choose interface here, and I'll call it file helper. And we had talked about how interfaces can define method signatures and also constants. We're going to focus on method signatures here today. So method signatures, again, they start with the file type that they're going to return, if any. I'll use file here for the moment, and we'll define the retrieve file and maybe have it take the string file name and call that good for now. And we'll have a void method that writes to a file. So we'll have write to file, and we'll have the string file name and the string info to write. We'll just start with that for now. So here we have our interface defined, and remember, we said that interfaces are contracts. They set up what should be possible, but don't tell us how it's done. That's up to the implementation files. So this contract says that we're going to have a method to retrieve files and to write files. So let's go ahead and create an implementation class. We had talked about different file types. I think we talked about XML, we talked about a text file, and I think we talked about an Excel file. So let's create one implementation class for this. We'll do new Java class, and we'll say, we'll do XML file helper as our class. And we're going to use the implements keyword here because we're going to provide the implementation for our file helper interface. So we'll do implements file helper. And right away, we're getting a red squiggle here, which is awesome because Intellij is helping us out. What's it say? It says, hey, your awesome new class, XML file helper, must either be declared abstract or implement the abstract method retrieve file string in file helper. So it's like, hey, dude, you set up this class to implement that interface, but you haven't provided the implementation for those two methods in there. And so the contract says that we must provide the implementation for at least these two methods. We can absolutely do more here in file helper, but to be a valid implementation of this interface, we have to provide at least those. So I'm going to go ahead and say implement methods and select both of them and have it create a shell for me. Bang. So it already just imported and formatted those two methods for us, and we're ready to rock and roll on actually providing the implementation here. Now, I'm not going to actually work with files here. I'm just going to use some strings because I feel like that's too far into the weeds there. And so I'll just do something like system out retrieving, oops, and if I could spell correctly, retrieving file, and we'll have the file name. I am using string concatenation there. It's probably not our best bet for a long-term program, but We'll, if you're curious, string builder is the better way to go there, but we'll just go with that for now. Keep it simple. Now it's looking for us to return a file, so I'm just going to return a new file. Oops. And what does this guy need? So it needs a string, and I'm just going to say blah or example. So I'm just satisfying the compiler there. I'm not too concerned with the details for that. And then, so that's our implementation for retrieve file. Now, in actuality, this would have a way to actually go grab an XML file from our hard drive or something like that. But this is kind of just pseudocode, hand-wavy stuff, just to get us rocking and rolling and understanding these concepts. We've then got the void write to file string, and so I'll say, system out writing to XML file, and actually I'll specify that we're retrieving an XML file and that system out as well. And so this is our output for having written to an XML file. So now we've got a file helper interface. We have successfully implemented that, and now we can actually use this. So we can say file helper XML file helper equals new XML file helper. And we can say XML file helper dot retrieve file. And we'll pass in my file name and call that good. What else did we say that needs? Too many characters in character literal. That's because I used the wrong quotes. Been doing too much JavaScript lately. Cool. So, and then we can XML file helper dot write to file. And so we need the file name and the info to write. We'll just say my file name. And my awesome info. Cool. And so now we can run this guy and we get the retrieving XML file name and writing to XML file. So that's cool, you know, and we had used this scenario where, you know, we straight up implemented one of these guys, and then later on, after we have our awesome XML implementation here, we're like, man, we need to support text files too. Well, geez. Well, that's no worries. Because we've built this stuff with the interface from the get-go, which is best practice, we didn't sprinkle this implementation code throughout a bunch of files and stuff. We can just add a new implementation class for our new use case. So in this case, we can just go add a new Java class, and we can say text file helper. And this guy is also going to implement the file helper. So we'll use the implements keyword, specify our file helper interface. And what happens? Again, right off the bat, we must provide the implementation of at least these two methods, maybe more, but at least these two guys. So once again, we can say implement methods. We'll get those shells in here. And now we can do stuff, do the implementation for the text file stuff specifically. So, you know, maybe we have to do different file operations to actually retrieve a text file here. And once again, I'll just do a sout here, retrieving text file, and we'll return the new file. Oops, yeah, that's fine. And for the write to file, similarly, we will do another sout and say writing to file. Make it a text file, so we're specific. And so it's no worries, right? We have now a new implementation that takes care of the text stuff. Whatever specific code and things that we had to do to go find a text file and manipulate it, whatever libraries or file type operations we had to do for text files in particular, it's all encapsulated here in these methods. And the retrieve file method here in the text file helper, it's generic. Like retrieve file, the name is generic from our interface, right? Because the interface isn't concerned with whether it's a text file or an XML file, an Excel file, a zip file. The interface doesn't have to care. And that's powerful. That's loose coupling. So it's the implementation classes that deal with their own implementation. And so it's like the retrieve file is context specific to this implementation class. But the XML file helper retrieve file is going to be specific for XML files, but it's all defined generically from the interface. And that's the power here. So we can come back to our main method here and create a new file helper. So we could say file helper, text file helper equals new text file helper. And then we can do the same things here. We can retrieve file, call it my text file, and XML, text file helper dot write to file, my text file, and my awesome text info. All right. Oops. And I'll make this my awesome XML info. And we'll run these guys. So we've got retrieving XML file, writing to XML file, retrieving text file, writing to text file. And so again, right, these are really generic from the outside. So like whatever developer or process is calling these guys doesn't necessarily have to care about whether it's a text file or an XML file. Those implementation files have it covered. They are doing what they need to do. And that lets us developers who need to use those think about them in a more general sense. Whichever helper you are, just take care of retrieving the file for me. You know, take care of writing to the file. I'm just going to tell you what to write, and you're going to take care of the implementation, the technical details. I'm just sitting back here chilly and providing the basic info. So that is the power of using interfaces from the get-go. And again, like if we had to support additional file types for any reason, no worries. We don't have to come in and change a bunch of other code that's doing other things. We'll just create a new file helper for our new implementation class, encapsulate it all there, and we're off to the races. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit about why we do this interface stuff when we're like, well, I'm only adding one implementation, so why did I need to bother? Again, we talked about it in the other video, but it's future proofing. We're helping ourselves and other people down the line when business needs change. And let me tell you, if you're not familiar with that, business needs change all the time. And so this helps insulate us from change and keep our code loosely coupled. When one thing doesn't have to care so much about the technical details of another thing. That's good code. Cheers.